Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Museum Open House. This ongoing series features and highlights many of the outstanding museums and other cultural institutions. The main purpose of most programs is to inform viewers about current and upcoming exhibits, various programs, resources, and other opportunities that are available for the general public. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guests Ellen Foust, Elisif Brandon, Nicole Mordecai, and Amy Oppenheimer. They are all four highly accomplished local photographers whose work is currently on display at Focus Real Estate, which is located at 43 Lincoln Street in Newton Highlands. During the program, our guests will be sharing some of their exquisite photographs, and in the process, we'll come to better understand and appreciate how they go about creating their outstanding artwork. Let's start by meeting Ellen, Elisif, Nicole, and Amy, and then finding all about the Focus on Photography exhibit, which will be on view until June 30th. Welcome, so delighted you're all able to be here. You know, a few days ago, I had the wonderful opportunity to visit Focus. I was almost going to say visit the gallery because it really seems like a gallery of artwork. It's just wonderful. So glad I had the opportunity and look forward to going back on other occasions. Eager to hear more about the exhibit and have you inform viewers. But before we jump right to that, Ellen, would you please start by sharing why and how the exhibit came about, please?
Sure, happy to. So the exhibit actually came about by a random fluke. I participated in Newton Open Studios this year. And as part of Newton Open Studios, I had a picture on display at the Focus Real Estate office. There was an exhibit organized by Claudia Fisks of Newton Open Studios, where each artist could have one picture at the Focus Real Estate. And I make it a habit every time I have a picture on display somewhere in a gallery or wherever, my husband comes with me and I get dressed up and we take a picture. So my husband, Jeff, and I stopped by at the Focus Real Estate office to take the picture, and Mike, who works there, the marketing manager, Mike, came out and started talking to me. And then all of a sudden he said, would I like to have my own show? Wow. And I thought, wow, that's cool. So I went home and I thought about it. Now, as a little background, Nicole, Elisif, and Amy and I have been photo buddies. We all met through the Newton Camera Club. And we are always competing against each other. And it's always like, who's going to win this one? So I did have enough pictures that I could have had mounted my own show and filled the space. But I thought it would be really fun to work together rather than compete against each other, so that we could all be winners and we could have the experience of putting on a show together. And a friend of mine said, what, are you crazy? Keep your show. And I thought, no, this is much better. And it was right. It was truly right. Part of photography for me is building friendships and community around myself with photography. And this has been a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Oh, most definitely. We're all very grateful that you went in this direction, for sure. Would you continue by sharing a little bit about yourself as a photographer?
Sure.
Maybe how you became interested, what guides you throughout your work, please?
Okay. I'm the daughter of a professional physicist who actually was part of the team that developed radar during World War II. And as part of being such a technical man, his passionate hobby was photography. He wasn't great at the picture taking, but he was superb at the technology. And we moved from Manhattan to the suburbs in New Jersey when I was 8, and he subdivided the basement and did the plumbing and electricity and put a darkroom in there. So starting when I was 8 years old, my father was my first photo teacher and bought me a camera, and I really took to it. So that's how I got started. So I've been doing photography for many a decade. And the kind of photography that I've been doing changed as my life changed. So when I had little kids, I photographed I had a portrait studio. I built a portrait studio in my basement, and I photographed kids. And how did I get to the pond? Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Let's stop there. Just wanted to switch to this quote and read parts of this quote. So this is a quote from W. Eugene Smith, who was a famous photographer that not many people know about. It's an oxymoron, right? But anyway, a well-known Life magazine photographer. And this is an actual photograph. You can see the little pinhole in it. I typed it in high school, and I had it on my bulletin board. And it's informed my whole career as a photographer. I shouldn't say career because it's never been my main career, but it's informed my life as a photographer. Mm-hmm. So transition from there to now and into tomorrow to remind myself that we need not take the past as proof against the future, to be ever an escort of a questioning mind, the mind a launching pad, the mind a sensorium. And that's what photography is about, perception. So we take things in. A computer of perceptions, awake to the living that is everywhere, the images to be found. Aware to think in many lights, aware too that shadows also cast realities, remaining always curious. I think that's a big part of photography for me and the others, to the ways of others, ready to appreciate the differences, wary of diverting splinters such as knick-knack thinking, and my camera, here's where it comes, my camera as a note taker for my mind, so that I may place evidence before others, telling them why I am so seldom bored. And I think that's really been true for me for my whole life. My mother told me that I should never be bored. And if I'm constantly looking around the world and I have a little device, and in my case, this is my camera. This is my camera. This is the only camera I have right now. So this is my camera. This is my everything here. There's my camera.
Well, let's move on, Ellen, for the sake of time, and enjoy some of your incredible images. Speaking of light and reflections, a few words of what we see here, please.
Sure. So I for the past, since 2018, I think that's 5 years by now, I have been photographing Bullows Pond. Bullows Pond is located in Newton at the corner of Walnut Street and Commonwealth Avenue. It's tucked away so that many people will drive by Walnut or Com Ave and never know it's there. It's a 3-acre pond. Mm-hmm. And I started photographing it. I was taking an online course in iPhone photography, of all things. And my homework assignment was a reflection. And so I had heard about this pond, and I went to this pond, and I did my homework assignment, and I handed it in. And the rest is history. I really became hooked. So what you're seeing in front of you as Jay advances the images is the same place, seen in different seasons, at different times of day, in different light. Here we have a summer rain, sunsets, sunrises. I set out to channel my inner Monet, my inner Claude Monet. Many of you will be familiar with the Haystack series, mm-hmm. or the Rouen Cathedral. So the real subject was not the boring haystack. And in many ways, my real subject is not the pond, but the atmospheric conditions around it. And it's been wonderful.
What do you hope viewers appreciate about your work?
Good question. Well, I derive incredible joy from spending time at the pond. And I hope that, I think good photographers, and I count all of us among that, we are in our own work. And so my moods and what I've seen is in this work. And I've been trying to capture beauty in all of its moments. And that's what I'm hoping people experience. This picture is called Vesuvius. Mm. A friend of mine named it after, obviously, the volcano, because it's fabulous. And it is, people will ask me, is this a fake sky or whatever? And the answer is, this is a single shot.
Wow.
This is incredible. A single shot.
It's really
it didn't happen in 1 minute, though, because part of photography is the watchful waiting I saw the clouds, but I had to wait until that center cloud centered on top of the house.
Nice, nice. Well,
And
these
then
have been,
I'll close with this one. This one attracts also, like Vesuvius, a lot of attention for an obvious reason, and that is the moon. And people are very like, is that real? So I will come out publicly and say, no, it's not. The other pictures that I have in the gallery are called cloudscapes. They're single shots and they are real for what that means. This is a composite. This
I
is a real photograph with real birds swimming. And there was really a moon in the sky that night, and it really was full, but it was behind me, not in front of me, and it was not that big.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
the additional background information. Want to move on, Elisif, to you, and just here before we enjoy some of your work, a little bit about your background and interest in photography, please.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having us on the show. I'm originally from Ohio, and I started my career training as a marine biologist for 10 years. And then I realized it wasn't right for me. I've always taken photos. I had a little Instamatic camera when I was a little kid and took photos of my little sister and our dog. But I didn't really realize it was a passion of mine until I joined the Newton Camera Club in 1998. So that was when I really got started. And then I started my own business. So I'm now a professional architectural photographer. So.
Could you say a little bit more about your focus and maybe lead into what we're seeing in front of us, please?
Sure. Yeah. So when I joined the camera club, I was photographing lots of different things, anything I saw on trips or around me. But I noticed I photographed buildings more than anything else. And, when we first moved to Boston in 1998, I think, I first came up the T in Copley Square, and I saw the Hancock Tower, and I was just stunned. Just the way the clouds were reflected in it, but also behind it, and the combination of the reflection and the real sky. And then, having Trinity Church right there, so historic architecture plus this modern glass architecture just really stunned me. And I started to realize I had a passion for architecture and photographing it. So that's in 2007, I started my business, doing architectural photography specifically. And so I just continue to explore architecture, especially when I'm traveling and taking photographs all different ways.
Well, we want to move through the images that are available for viewers at the show. And just a quick word for the sake of time about the location we're seeing.
Yes. So this is the Bottle Works Hotel in Indianapolis. It's an old Coke bottling plant. So it's called the Bottle Works Hotel. And this was the lab. So that's why there's so much tile. So the technique I used here was actually with the phone. I have a regular, Canon camera that I use in my work, but I use the phone even a lot more these days when traveling. This is a vertical panorama. So I put the phone on vertical, on panorama mode, and then I hold it out in front of me and sweep it over my head and behind me.
Wow.
And then turn it off behind me, turn off the shot. And it creates this amazing way to capture the ceiling and what's in front of you and behind you, all in one shot. So that's what I was working on here. Yeah, that's what this series is.
That's fabulous. Moving on, what do we see here? This atrium, I think.
Yes, this is an atrium in Toronto. My husband and I go up there every few years for the film festival. And I discovered this atrium that's designed by Calatrava. I love his work. It's actually somewhat skeletal. He's interested in marine biology, so maybe that's partly what attracted me to it. But this atrium is just stunning, and I just couldn't capture it in a single shot with a regular camera or just on regular mode. But then I figured out and was inspired by others to do a vertical panorama, and it really helped showcase the entire thing.
Wow.
So this is in downtown Toronto.
And I think Many viewers will probably recognize the Chihuly work here.
Right. These are glass flowers by Chihuly. This is in the Chihuly Museum in Seattle that opened not long ago, right near the Space Needle. And they had this atrium at the end of the museum, this stunning piece of work. And I realized it would work. It was mostly above me, so it would work for a vertical panorama.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Another atrium opportunity, I think.
Yes, this is designed by Frank Gehry. It's another building in Toronto, the art museum. And yeah, I think it's designed to look kind of like the hull of a ship on one side. And so I tried a vertical panorama there too. I sometimes I take the vertical panorama, I try it, it doesn't always work. But then I look at my phone afterwards sometimes and I just giggle because it's just so funny how they come out and amazing. So this one worked.
And these next two, a little more local at Harvard.
Yes, this is the Harvard Center for Government and International Studies, I think, CGIS.
Mhm.
I discovered this spiral staircase there. You can't find it from the first floor. You have to go to the second floor to see it. And it's just a beautiful staircase. So that one was looking straight down. This one is a vertical panorama, but I started shooting straight up. So the view you see here at the very top, that's what's behind me. Those are the two walls behind me. So I shot straight up and then went down with a panorama almost to my feet to show kind of the extent of the spiral all in one shot.
Oh, wonderful. And if you could just say, without too much additional information, these next two, just the location and what we're seeing.
Yeah, this is in Hawaii. This is St. Augustine by the Sea, a church that was right next to our hotel on Waikiki Beach.
And the last one, please.
This is in Venice at the airport. We were in line at the airport and I'm like, oh, there's another amazing atrium. Let's give it a try.
Fabulous, fabulous. Well, unfortunately, as is the case with all of you, have to move on. Much more to hear about, but that'll be an opportunity for viewers to visit the exhibit at Focus Realty. Nicole, welcome. Want to move on to you and hear a little bit about your background and then jump right into the image that we see here, please.
All right. Well, thank you for having us. Unlike the other three, I am not a longtime photographer. I took up photography when about 10 years ago when my daughter was a sophomore in high school. And her soccer team was in need of a photographer because the mom who had been doing it, her senior graduated. And my husband went to Costco. He just bought a Nikon camera off the shelf, brought it home and said, "You're now the team photographer."
That's
So
great.
the first game, they had a scrimmage and I photographed it and every picture was blurry. So I was working full time in a computer job at the time, and I took like 3 or 4 days off from work. I consumed every sports photography video on the internet. I ran my poor dog ragged because she's the only thing I had that moved fast enough. And I taught myself sports photography. So that the first probably 3 or 4 years, that was pretty much what I did, was photograph her doing her various sports. And then when she graduated, I was like, oh, I kind of like this photography thing, and I had gotten much better at it. So I took a lot of online classes. I joined the Newton Camera Club, and I really got hooked. And now I have a business. I teach mainly, since my background is really on the computer and technical side of things, I teach mainly photo editing, like Photoshop. I do teach some basic camera skills as well. And I do some professional shooting, mainly community events, that kind of thing. I help Elisif out with some events occasionally too.
Nice, nice. Well, in the images we're going to share and hear about, what's your focus at the
Yeah.
Focus
For
exhibit?
this show, I'm showing all wildlife photographs. And it's, I guess, kind of ironic that I have very bad eyesight and I'm constitutionally unsuited for wildlife photography, but I love it. I think I love it because I can't see the wildlife in real life all that well. But if I can get my long lens on it, to me, it's just such a thrill to get these pictures and, like to be able to see this bear close up and look at his cute little nose and mouth and ears and see the fur. And I hope I bring some of that joy to other people. Just the awe of what's out there in Mother Nature.
Oh, for sure. As we're going to see, you definitely come across with that. And there's so much more we could ask and hear about everyone, this one in particular. But for the sake of time, again, we're going to move on. A few words about what we're seeing here, please.
Yes, well, actually, both these first two images, the bear and the flamingo, believe it or not, were both taken in Canada, and both of these animals were captive animals. The rest of them were wild, but this guy was a very unexpected surprise in a butterfly museum.
Mm. Really like the colors, the shading is incredible.
Yeah, a gorgeous creature. And this one has the best story. This is a juvenile barred owl who dive bombed me in my backyard. I heard some ungodly noise outside. I went out to investigate, and I got swooped by this owl.
Oh,
He ended on this branch, and I ran inside, got my camera, and he was kind enough to wait for me so I could take his picture.
good, good. It all worked out quite well. Oh,
And
this is incredible.
these sea lions actually have been in the news recently. If you've read about the sea lion population in San Francisco and the harbor, apparently there's overpopulation of anchovies, and the sea lions they're in force, but they're very argumentative creatures. And I waited a long time. Actually, took me 3 or 4 days to get this shot with the backlighting, the rim lighting we call it, that illuminates the outlines.
Yeah, I mean, the patience, as Ellen mentioned earlier, something wish we had more time to explore and how long it takes and consideration. But again, we're going to move on and we'd like to see two more of yours, please.
Yeah, this one is in Florida, in a sort of swampy area. A beautiful bird that whose name I just went out of my head, but I'll think of it in a minute.
It's a lampert, right?
What is
A
that?
Lampert?
Oh, Limpkin. Thank you.
Limpkin.
Limpkin.
Terrific, terrific. And the last one to have a comment about, please.
Yep, this was right in Weston. This was a swan that was defending its territory. I think there were some geese around that were invading, and he's on the warpath here. So I really liked I like action shots.
It's wonderful, wonderful. Again, all of them to really be appreciated need to be seen in person at the exhibit. Going to move on to you, Amy. Welcome. A few words of introduction about yourself and interest in photography before we enjoy some of your work.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a camera in my hands since I was a kid. My father and one of my brothers were into photography, and I just naturally was given a camera when I was about 10. And I progressed to bigger cameras and better cameras. And in about 1980, I decided I got a Nikon, and spent the next 20 years hiding behind it at family gatherings so I didn't have to talk to anybody. And then I was almost 50, and I said, I need to do something creative. And the only option I really had was the camera. So I've been doing that ever since. And I have to say, my iPhone has been a great help the last few years, because it's always with you. And I am a photographer who notices detail more than anything. And there's never a zoom, but the phone is coming close. So
I know that's another question. If we had more time, be interesting to explore is how the changes in technology have affected everybody's photography. But with that as a placeholder, this one that we see in front of us, Amy, Fall Flood, I believe. A few words about this.
It's an fairly old picture. I live very near the Charles in Newton Lower Falls, and it's behind the Gregorian Rug Store, if anybody knows where that is. There's a bridge that goes over the Charles on a dam, and the river was just raging. We'd had a lot of rain, a lot of flooding. It's also a very cluttered scene because there are trees and branches and crap everywhere, and I have yet to meet a telephoto lens I didn't love. So I spent a lot of time trying to find a spot that was clear of debris. And there really is there only are about 1 or 2 spots that it would work. And this is one of them. And I love the flow and the colors. It looks,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it looks like, but I'm very fond of it. And I was glad to get it printed finally.
Just the texture that comes across is very interesting.
Just the shapes and the smoothness.
And these next two are somewhat connected. What do we see here?
These are all taken on the Cape in a couple of workshops, somewhere on the outer Cape. I don't remember where, but it was an absolutely beautiful sunrise
Mm.
on the last day of the workshop. And the motorboat went up the Bass River, and I'm not into boats. But I looked at the wake and said, oh, there's a shot in there somewhere, because I work by recognition. I don't really pre-plan anything I can't. So I just love the colors of this one, the pink and the blues.
Oh, for sure, for sure. You know, what you just said, I think probably goes through all photographers' minds is, I think there's a shot in there somewhere.
Right. I
And
just had
then
to,
you go discover it. Yeah.
yeah, I had to look for it, but it was there. And it's funny, the group helped me select these photos for the show. And I don't usually do in-camera motion. So these 3 are sort of atypical of what I do, but they work together. And I photograph a lot of different things. I don't really specialize in anything, except I avoid wide angle like the plague. So, and it was just a nice morning at sunset, actually, I think. I've lost track.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And
And
this one's quite intriguing.
it's ice over running water, and cannot remember where I took it. It's some small stream in Lincoln a couple of winters ago. And once again, it's a detail shot.
Mhm.
I notice things that other people sort of walk by and they all stop when I grab my camera and say, what are you shooting? Like the shovels in the hardware store. So I'm very much into small scale, detail shots.
Oh, yeah. And again, the colors are outstanding.
Yeah, and the colors of this whole presentation tend to go together, which I thank the group for.
Wonderful.
They said I could have had 20, 5 shows out of what I was asking them about. So what we ended up with. And these 2 are once again on the Cape somewhere, I think fairly late morning. I know I did all wear it. I have to go back and look. But they're just all in camera motion. It was very peaceful. It's a kind of no-brainer way to shoot when you're tired. You just keep shooting until something works. It's totally random, it's what you get, but it's a lot of fun because you really don't have to think too hard.
Wonderful. And last one here, please.
Same beach, same morning, just a different direction. And I hate thinking of shooting, so this worked out pretty well.
What do you hope viewers come to appreciate and enjoy about your work?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I like to point out things that people have missed, and I just like to share what I've taken when I think it's worth sharing. What they get out of it, I don't know. I don't think that way. I just shoot because I really enjoy it, and it's an escape and kind of a zen morning, as it were. So whatever comes out of it, I'm willing to share.
Well, I think in closing, just enjoying it definitely comes across from all of you. Like you said, Zen, like each of you, when you find the medium that you're working in, are sort of in the flow, and what comes out of these fabulous images that we can all enjoy. But for the sake of time, we've come to the end of the program. Want to thank all of you for being here. Definitely encourage people to make their way to Focus Real Estate in Newton Highlands. Have a lot of time, the whole month of June ahead, to go down and enjoy everybody's work and just continued success with all your future endeavors.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us, and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.